this morning? Man, we are so incredibly excited you are here. First off, let me introduce myself. My name is Mike. I have the wonderful honor of being the lead pastor here at Bloom. But can I say something? It's Pastor Appreciation Month, but I'm not the only pastor here at Bloom. I'm a small part of what makes this church great. So can we give a big celebration to all of our pastors? Come on. Come on. Man, you guys don't know how blessed you are. I know how blessed I am because they help me out, but you guys don't even know. They are the best pastoral staff in the world. All right, guys, we are kicking off in the middle of a series called You Asked For It, Week 2. And last week, I spoke on a topic that is a very difficult topic to speak about, but it's probably one of my most raw and authentic messages I think I've ever spoke on, because I shared my struggle with depression and even suicidal thoughts. And if you missed last week, I want to encourage you, go online, take a listen to that, share that. I think it will be deeply impactful to many people in your life. And so we're going to continue this series, and it's a series based on exactly the way it sounds. You asked for it. And what I'm doing is every year I take the topics that you vote on and then I dive into them and speak on what you want me to speak about. So you voted and said, hey, Pastor Mike, this is what we want to talk about. And so we tackled depression last week. And today we're going to tackle a topic called how to deal with difficult people. Can I get an amen right now? Because somebody, right? Because we need that. But before I jump into that, I want to remind you, even though we're not in the year of the Bible right now because of the You Asked For It series, you can still get a bookmark and keep up with your Bible reading. We're printing them off every month, so grab one of these at all the tables out in the hallways, Welcome Center, Black Tent. But we're going to talk about how to deal with difficult people. And let's just be honest. Some people are like vampires. They just suck the life out of you. Come on. Right? Some people feel like they got the spiritual gift of driving you crazy. They cultivate it, they work on it, and they enhance in that gift, right? Every single day, they look for you as an opportunity. You are the training ground. We deal with difficult people. But when I speak on this topic, and listen, this is something you vote on every single year. Like, this is what you want me to speak on. So apparently, it's not getting through, so we're going to talk about it today. But we deal with difficult people, and every time I speak on it, this is what I always say because it's so true. And I want you to get this. Anything or anyone different can be difficult. Anyone or anything that is different can be difficult. Guess what? 99% of the people you come in contact with, they different than you. Turn to your neighbor and say, you are different. Now say, that means you are perfectly, beautifully, and wonderfully made. Come on, somebody. Don't be insulting nobody in church. But the reality is people are different. You got people of all walks of life, all different personalities. You got the people that wake up in the morning and it is like, man, go time, right? They are morning people. They wake up in the morning and they're like, hello, my darling, hello, my God. Right? And you're like, what the heck? And then you got some people that you're like, don't talk to me until the clock hits double digits, right? They're like, nah. You got some people, right? You got some people, they're the nitpickers, right? They find out every little flaw, everything that's wrong, right? I read the connection cards. I know there's a million different reasons why I'm not a good speaker. I hear them. I know, right? I don't like his shoes this week. Come on. You got some people, right? They are the one-uppers. Every time you say something like, oh yeah, but I did it better, right? Like, I went on vacation, but it wasn't as nice as mine, right? I don't care about yours, right? Then you have those people that are the clammers. They don't talk. They don't ever say a word. You talk to them like, how are you doing? Right? Then you got those people with megaphones. They like always, that's all you hear, right? They walk into a room and like, hello, and you just hear everything they say, right? There are different people. Different people can be difficult. You got dog lovers, and you got those people that worship the devil that are cat lovers. Come on, somebody. There's just some different people in this world. And anything or anyone different can be difficult. Now, I don't really mean that if you serve like cats, you're a devil worshiper, so don't take me to the bank on that one. But I do know that people can be difficult because difference can be difficult. And if you don't get this right, it's going to drastically impact your cost of living because you're going to deal with people. And what happens is too many times we bring the wrong things into our relationships. And so here's what Paul says to Timothy in 2 Timothy. He says it like this: again, I say, don't get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments that only starts fights. A servant of the Lord must not quarrel, but must be kind to everyone, be able to teach, and be patient with difficult people. Ain't that a good one, right? That we are called to a higher standard as followers of Jesus. And there's lifestyle choices we make that we've got to be conscious of. But how many people know what we're supposed to do, but we don't always do what we're supposed to do? That's why Paul says, I want to do what's right, but I don't always do what's right. Paul says there's this wrestling, this battling going on inside of me. I know I shouldn't start foolish, ignorant arguments, but sometimes I do. I know I should be patient, but I don't always. I know I'm supposed to be kind, but sometimes I say some things that are not very kind. And I'm not being who I'm supposed to be with difficult people. Why is that? Because on the inside, we're wrestling against selfishness. We're wrestling against this thing that we wanted our way and our way only. And here's what selfishness tells you. It tells you, don't worry about the consequences until you have to deal with the consequences. How many times you get in a fight, you ain't thinking about the consequences, but then later on, you like, man, I'm paying some serious consequences for the things I said or the things I did. Because in the heat of your emotions doesn't care about your consequences. And that's been the MO from day one. That's why the devil, the very first thing he tried to do in the Garden of Eden is to impact our relationship with God and start getting us to second guess that relationship and not really care about the consequences. The very first thing he did is basically start manipulating that God wasn't for us, that we were in this thing by ourselves, that God's keeping things from us, and he's trying to keep good things from you. And Adam and Eve didn't think about the consequences the deeper they got into their emotional state. And that tends to be what happens with us. We get to this place where we don't think about the consequences of the words we say or the actions we live until we're at a place where we have to pay for them. And so that's why Paul is telling us and framing this. He goes on to say in Timothy, gently instruct those who oppose the truth. Perhaps God will change the people's hearts. No guarantee, because they're free will. They got to make the choice themselves, but perhaps, and they will learn the truth. Then they will come to their senses and escape the devil's trap. For they have been held captive by him to do whatever he wants. This is why Paul says we're not fighting against flesh and blood. We're fighting against something spiritual. You're not battling people, you're battling something spiritual. And you may say, well, Pastor Mike, when I'm in this argument, it feels pretty like I'm battling somebody right now. No, you're battling something deeper than that. Why? Because healthy relationships are foundational to a healthy spiritual life. And the devil knows that. So why do you think he's going to go after your marriage? Why do you think he's going to go after your friendships? Why do you think he's going to mess up your workplace and your church family? Because he doesn't want you to have a foundational piece for spiritual health in your life. And if you don't understand this, you're going to drastically hurt your cost of living and your ability to thrive in this life. So today, I'm going to talk about something I talked about several years ago that I think is really important that you need to get. I'm going to talk about conflict resolution. Because I think this is something that almost every single person needs to get in their spirit. And we're going to be real practical today. And listen to me, unless you're choosing to be some hermit to live in the cabin in the woods, you're going to need this because you're going to deal with people. You're going to encounter people, and you're going to encounter people that are different than you, and that can be difficult. And you need to understand your responsibility to try to resolve the conflicts that you're in your life. And as I was going over this and writing this message, I'm going to be honest with you, God convicted me big time. Because there's been some incidents recently that I haven't handled the right way. And so I'm speaking just as much to myself as I'm going to be speaking to you. So we're going to go on this journey together, amen? But I want you to look in Romans chapter 12. I want you to get this. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, listen to me, not everybody wants to change. And not everybody wants to fix and heal a relationship. So if it's possible, but as far as depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Listen to me, not everybody's going to fix the problems. And not everybody's going to want a resolution to the conflict. But as far as me, I am going to be accountable for my actions and my words, and I'm going to handle it the way God has called me to handle it. Don't let someone else's inability to change keep you from health. Be who God called you to be. And so there's some things you need to understand when it comes to conflict resolution to get in your spirit so you can walk towards health in your life. The very first thing you've got to realize is this: you got to take the initiative. You got to take the initiative. Here's what we do. We try to tell ourselves out of sight, out of mind. If I just ignore it, it's going to go away. It don't work that way. Here's what we do. We get a conflict. We have a problem. We've had a fight. We've had an argument. We've had an issue. And we go and we sweep it under the rug. I don't see it anymore. And we keep sweeping stuff under the rug more and more. And the next thing you know, you got a big old lump in the middle of your rug. Right? You got this big obstruction in the middle of your rug. And you're going to be walking through your house of life and you're going to trip over that rug. And then what happens? You get mad. I cannot believe I just tripped over this. I can't believe this in my house. And guess what we tell ourselves? My house has an uneven floor. My floor's got a big old lump in it. So guess what we gonna do? We gonna sell the house. I'm getting me a new house. I'm selling this house. I'm quitting my job. I'm quitting that marriage. I'm quitting that church. I'm quitting that friendship. I'm getting me a brand spanking new house. And we do. And we get a new house and we walk in and we're like, oh, look at this. Flat floors. I can dance for days. Come on. This new job is perfect. My new boyfriend gets me. Right? My new church is the best. That pastor don't wear skinny jeans. My new friend just has the best heart. My floor is flat. And it is for a while. And then the conflict happens. And what do? Sweep, 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 sweep. Sweep, 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 sweep. Next thing you know, you tripping and you start the process all over again. I'm selling a house. And that's what we do in our lives. And listen to me, you want to know the biggest lie you can believe? Time heals everything. Now, time heals it. No, that's not the way it works. Time doesn't heal things. When you know there's a problem and you don't address it, it makes the problem bigger. If you know you're sick and you don't seek a cure, that sickness is going to kill you. And listen to me, think about it like this. You got an issue with a person. You can either go straight to that person and deal with it, or you can ignore it. And then 6 months down the road, when you're full of resentment, you go to that person and you air out all your dirty laundry. Which one do you think they're gonna appreciate more? The person that went straight to them, or the person that waited 6 months with animosity towards them? You mean for 6 months you've been holding that in? And that's what we do in our relationships, what we do in our marriages, what we do in our friendships. Listen to me, time doesn't heal anything. Time builds resentment and turns it into bitterness. And how many people do you know that has unresolved issues that are in our bitterness in their hearts and minds? Because they won't confront things. Listen to me, nobody likes confrontation, but some people are terrified of it. And the reason why is this. The reason we fear confrontation is because we fear being exposed and being vulnerable. The reason why we don't want to confront an issue or a problem or a person is because we're afraid that we're going to be exposed and there's some things we may have done that was inappropriate. Or we're scared of being vulnerable and open with someone and we don't know how they're going to react. So what do? We sweep it under the rug. We run and we hide. We act just like Adam and Eve did, all the way back in Genesis, when it says, I heard you walking in the garden, so I hid. I was afraid because I was naked. I was afraid because I was exposed. I was afraid of being vulnerable. I was scared. And here's what fear does in your life. It'll cause you to do one of three things. It'll cause you to get distant, it'll cause you to get defensive, or it'll cause you to get demanding. You'll either get distant and run away, you'll put your walls up and your guards up and get defensive, or you start getting demanding. You better do, or this is what's going to happen. We are not driven by fear as followers of Jesus. We are not called to live with fear in our lives. Paul told Timothy, we are not called, God has not given us a spirit of fear or timidity, but power and love and self-discipline, or other translations say self-control. You are not given the spirit of fear. You are given the spirit of love, and you are given the spirit to have power to overcome the problems in your relationships. And you will have the self-control and the self-discipline to be the person God called and created you to be. You got to quit fighting for victory and start fighting for health in your relationships, and start fighting for the person God created you to be, and start praying that God fills you with love to conquer the fear that you are facing right now in your life. You got to take the initiative. Number one. Number two, this is a hard one. You don't want this one. You got to admit you're part of the conflict. Oh no. You got to admit you're part of the problem. Do you know the number one reason for divorce in America? Irreconcilable differences. You know what that means? We couldn't compromise. I wasn't going to admit I was wrong. You weren't going to admit you were wrong. Right? We both are just going to agree to disagree. I have yet to see a marriage, I have yet to see a relationship where it was 100% the other person. It takes two to tango. Now, I'm going to be honest, sometimes it leans a little bit more on some other people because of the things they're doing in the moment, but there took two people to get to that place in their relationship. And you've got to understand you are part of the problem. And we, too many times, kill our relationships because we won't check stubbornness at the door. I'm going to have it my way. That's not just selfish, that's childish. To say, I'm not willing to meet in the middle. And here's what happens. We start losing who we were created and designed to be because our stubbornness brings out our sinful side, not our spiritual side. And you've got to understand, you're going to start walking and acting in ways you were never called to walk in. And here's what I want to encourage you with. Write this down. Don't trade away your integrity for justification. Don't trade away your integrity for justification. People will hurt you. People will say things to you they should have never said to you. People have actions against you that is wrong. But listen to me, someone else's sin is never a justification for you to sin. And the majority of relational sin is in response to the hurt that has been given to us by someone else. And so we react and respond in ways we were never created to walk in, talk in, or act like. It's never justified to respond to sin with more sin. Listen to what Jesus says in Matthew chapter 7. He says it like this. He says, why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you got a log in your own? Hypocrites, first get rid of the log in your own eye. Then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. Notice here what Jesus is saying. He's not saying the other person doesn't have wrongs. He's not saying what the other person did is justified. He's not saying what the other person did is okay. But he's saying you can't deal with someone else's issues until you first deal with yours. You can't go work on someone else's problems when you still got problems. Because you're going to walk and talk in your sinful side instead of your spiritual side. But when you remove the sin and the issues in your life and you go with a heart to restore instead of a heart to win, you start seeing health in the relationship instead of justification. You got to deal with yourself. You got to admit you have a part to play in your problem. Number 3, you got to listen for the hurt. Listen for the hurt. Listen what James says. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. You got to listen for the hurt. Psychologists have shown and proven that anger is a secondary emotion. It's not your first emotion. It's a defense mechanism that kicks in when your hurt or your fear has been exposed. And so what we do is when something hurt us or we have this fear in our lives, we trigger it, and maybe we don't even realize we're doing this, but we trigger it to cover it up with anger to try to deflect and distract from what's really going on. So when someone's being angry at you and being hateful to you, it's not always as personal as we take it. And listen to me, I know some of the things that people say in anger is horrible and it hurts. But the reality is there's something deeper going on in their lives. And if all you do is deal with surface issues, you'll have a surface relationship. If you want an intimate relationship, you got to start attacking and dealing with things below the surface, which means you've got to listen for the hurt, not focus on the anger. You got to listen to what's really going on. Because the reality is this, write this in your notes, hurt people hurt people. The reason why they're hurting you is because they're hurting themselves. The reason why they're struggling is because they've got something going on the inside. That's why you've got to understand what's going on in their hearts and lives. You've got to listen. Because here's what you need to understand. The solution begins with understanding. How can you fix a problem when you don't really know what the problem is? How can you find the solution and solve the answer when you don't even know what the problem is? And this is what happens. Can we be honest, dudes? This is us. We pretty simple. We pretty black and white. We don't listen to the words that are beyond the words. We listen to only what we're said, right? Our wife yells at us. We only hear what she's yelling at us about. We don't know how to read beyond the lines. But the reality is this. There's always something deeper going on. And so many times I've had a fight with my wife or an argument with my wife. And after a series of yelling and screaming, and after a series of just letting it go, she'll finally say something and go, you don't understand XYZ. And XYZ, 90% of the times, has nothing to do with the fight. It's something that's deeper going on in her heart and life. we've got to find the solution by understanding what the other person's going through. Romans 15:2 says it like this. It says, for we must bear the burden of being considerate of the doubts and fears of others. We've got to bear the burden of being considerate of what other people are going through if we're going to see health happen in the lives of other people. We've got to understand that hurt people hurt people. And there's something different going on. I love this quote that I read on relationships. He says it like this: you cannot effectively move towards conflict resolution until each participant experiences for themselves to be fully heard with regard to their perspective, what they want, and why. Man, if you're not taking notes, you need to take a picture of that screen. That is the reality. You can't find health and resolution until both parties are fully heard. And what that means is that both parties realize you understand what's really going on. It's beyond the surface to the deeper issues in their life. Philippians says it like this: don't look out for only your own interest, but take an interest in others too. You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. Don't look out just for you. If you want health, you've got to care about what's going on in the lives of those that you are doing life with. So you've got to listen for the hurt. Number 4, write this in your notes. You got to speak the truth tactfully. You got to speak the truth tactfully. Guess what? You're not going to find health until there's a dialogue, not a monologue going on. If it's only one person talking, only one person's being heard, and you're not going to find health in that situation. You've got to create a dialogue. But the way you speak matters, right? You can say, I don't appreciate you being a jerk right now. Or you can say, you know what you said really hurt me. Guess which one's going to get a better response, right? I don't really like you being a punk here right now. That ain't going to get a lot of response in the right way. The way you say it matters. Our words carry more weight than you realize. And that's why Proverbs says it like this: some people make cutting remarks, but the words of the wise bring healing. Some people bring pain, and some people bring healing by what they say and how they say it. That's why James says, be slow to speak. You need to think twice as much as you say. You need to process twice as much as you actually reply. Because you got to think before you speak. You ever heard a carpenter say it like this? He goes, you got to measure twice, cut once, right? Because if you cut and you cut before measuring right, you're going to regret it. That's the same thing with speaking. You better think twice before you speak, because you're going to end up saying something that cuts them instead of heals them, and you're going to go all the way back to the beginning. You got to start all over again. If you're going to move forward, you got to care about the words you say. So let me give you some guidelines for communicating. Number 1, you got to remain calm. Studies show that when you're in an emotional state, your IQ drops by 30 points. That's why you say the dumbest things when you mad. Because guess what? In that moment, you dumb. Your IQ dropped. You dumb. You're not thinking clearly. You ever sat back after you got mad and said something, you go, man, I look like a fool. That's what happens every time I watch a Packers game and they're losing. I have literally lost my IQ. I have chucked it out the window. I am throwing water bottles. I am marching around that room. And my wife walks out of the room, right? She knows I don't watch games with nobody else. Come on, somebody. Number 2, you got to express feelings with words, not actions. How many times you say, I didn't say anything? You didn't have to. right? Oh man, right? Like you don't have to say that. I can read your face, right? You got a stank face right now. You know what you say. You got to express with words, not with actions. Number 3, be specific with what is bothering you. You need to tell people the truth. Don't with this vague stuff. Quit beating around the bush. Quit sweeping it under the rug. Be specific. How can we fix something we don't really know what's going on? This happens a lot in work. This happens a lot in your workplace. You never really say what's bothering you. You keep ignoring it until all of a sudden it just explodes on your boss or on a coworker because you've never been specific with what's really going on. Number 4, deal with only one issue at a time. One issue at a time. Here's what we do, right? Oh, yeah? We talking about this? Hold on. Let me dump this stuff on the table, right? Remember 3 years ago when you did that? You ain't changed a bit. Oh, yeah? Remember a month and a half ago when you said this in passing? Boom. And we want to dump every issue out on the table at once. And it don't work that way. When have you ever had a fight when you start bringing in past arguments into present conversation? It worked in your favor. That just makes other people mad. Deal with one issue at a time. Number 5, no hitting below the belt. Don't say things you can't take back. Do not go somewhere that you are going to regret going when you get your emotions down. And lastly, avoid clamming up. Some people, when they're having a confrontation or a conversation, they won't say a word. Silent treatment. I ain't talking. How can you ever have a healthy relationship if you don't ever talk to the person you're in a relationship with? You've got to understand the rules. Ephesians says it like this. Don't use harmful words, but only helpful words, the kind that build up and provide what is needed so that what you say will do good to those who hear you. Listen to me, you can either do good or do bad to the people that are hearing what you're saying. Make sure you are speaking tactfully. Number 5, you've got to fix the problem, not the blame. You've got to fix the problem, not the blame. Pointing fingers sets you back, not forward. And too many times, what do? We want to blame a person instead of the issue. We go through things, financial issues, stress at work. We have issues with our kids. There's a communication issue. Something going wrong inside your marriage. And what do? Instead of attacking the problem, we attack the person, and then we wonder why we get nowhere in our relationships. We wonder why we're not getting to where we're called to go. Why? Because blaming prevents progress. You will never progress in your relationships if all you do is blame people and blame a person and fix all your energy and your efforts on a person instead of the problem. You're never going to move that relationship forward. You'll always move it backwards. And when we start blaming, we start justifying our actions and bringing things into relationships we were never intended to bring in them. We start walking what Paul warns us about in Colossians. We start, get rid of anger, rage, malicious behavior, slander, and dirty language. Don't lie to each other. Listen to me. As followers of Jesus, we do not bring anger into a relationship and start saying things in an emotional state we can't take back. We do not bring malicious behavior in there where we start doing things to spite you so you can feel what we feel, and we're going to start jabbing you with our actions. And we do not bring slander. We don't start belittling you. We don't start labeling you. We don't start calling you things you're not. We are going to start bringing things into our marriages, into our friendships, into our workplaces that move those relationships forward, not backwards. We are going to be accountable to our actions and understand that we can either fix the problem or we can fix the blame and never move forward. Because all blaming is judging other people and never dealing with what's really going on. That's why it says it like this in Romans. So Lynn, let us stop judging one another. Instead, you should decide never to do anything that would make others stumble or fall into sin. You can fix the problem or you can fix the blame. You know what I encourage you to do? Physically write down what's going on. Physically write down. You know what, Pastor Mike, I'm not happy. Okay, let's find out why. Man, financially we're drowning. I feel like no one hears me. I feel like I just get angry and things trigger things in my life. I feel like I'm just tired all the time. Write out the problem that you're struggling with. Because when you see the problem on the paper, you're not going to write a person's name next to it. You're going to start writing solutions next to it. How can I fix this financial issue? How can I fix the lack of communication? How can I fix the fact that I'm getting triggered by these things right here and start moving away from those things? How can I fix the fact that I'm tired all the time and exhausted? And you can start attacking the problem instead of the person and moving the things forward in your life instead of backwards. Amen. Fix the problem, not the blame. And lastly, and this is really important, focus on restoration, not perfection. Focus on restoration, not perfection. People won't be perfect. And if you put that standard on them, you will always be disappointed. They're different than you. They're imperfect people just like you. Listen to me. We're imperfect people trying to live a perfect gospel. We're going to fall short. Your marriages, your spouse, they're going to fall short at times. Your friends, they're going to fall short at times. Your children, they're going to disappoint you at times. And the reaction can either be to restore that or expect something that can never be done. That's why Jesus' very word said, "Blessed be the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." Notice he doesn't say, "Blessed are those that experience peace." He says, "Blessed are those that make peace." People that make peace are people that can take a chaos situation and interject peace into that. People that are peacemakers can take the tragedies or the problems or the emotions that are happening and interject peace into that situation. We are called to move our relationships forward. We are called to win in our relationships. You can win in your marriage. You can win in your friendships. You can win in your workplace. You can win in your relationships. And the reason why is because we are going to be who God called us to be. And we're going to live above reproach. And we're going to bring life into relationships that the world brings death. And we're going to speak hope into relationships where the world has spoke death. And we're going to speak life into relationships where the world has spoke death, and we're going to be the people God called and created us to be. We're going to move them forward because healthy relationships is a foundational piece to a healthy spiritual life. You're not called to do life alone. And we're going to resolve the conflicts, fix the problem, not the blame. I want to thank you guys for watching online. If you were blessed, man, if you want to financially contribute, you can go to bloomhere.org/give. If you'd like to follow us online, follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Church Bloom. We are blessed, and if you're ever in the Branson area, we'd love to have you at one of our services, and you can find any information at bloomhere.org. Love you guys, and I pray God's peace.